Hello, my name's Kevin Porman. I'm a developer advocate here at Salesforce, and I have a very special guest with me here today. Guest, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Chris Peterson. I'm the Director of Product Management for Apex and longtime Apex practitioner who's using this session as an excuse to write code professionally again.
Okay, well, there you go. Now, you may remember that a few weeks back, Chris joined me and we started building a logging solution, building platform events. And we got about, I don't want to say, got mostly done with it, but now we're going to have an opportunity to test it, to get everything working, to make sure all the kinks are worked out, and to get everything working. I have another special guest today. I'm just going to warn you. It's a rare fall beautiful day here where I'm recording. So I have my window open and I've been joined by a fly. So if I, pull a Mike Pence here in a little bit, forgive me. But as we get into our session today, when we last left our heroes, we were working on
A logging framework
a
for
logging
Apex.
framework. There we go. We had created this log class, and I'm just going to walk through it here. So we've got a buffer of log messages that are going to come in, or that we can create. We've got a method that gives us an instance of the log. Right? Am I reading that right? It's going to either going to give us.
Remember, we settled on a singleton style pattern. So
Yep.
that's the getter that gives you the current instance of the log. So we made it so that you could create multiple log instances later if you wanted to have different log channels or severities or owners of different log messages. But in most cases, you're going to have one logger. So we made the singleton pattern, but not truly a singleton because you can construct your own if you wanted to. So we didn't box ourselves into a true singleton pattern, but we gave you the convenience of one anyways, is I guess the right way to say it.
Infinite cosmic flexibility, itty bitty amounts of code. Today on
Sure.
codeLive. And we've got a couple of other methods in here. We have this add method, which is going to allow you to add a log message to the buffer. And then we've also got the publish method. And this has got a couple of varieties to it. But the publish method is what's actually going to turn around, fire that event bus message, and publish the buffer. I think I've got that correct.
Yep.
Oh,
We should probably add some comments while we're doing that.
yeah, here. Currently in the buffer. Now, this is a special edition of codeLive. While Chris is typing, I'm going to just fill everybody in. We're pre-recording this. It's a lovely fall day in November here, and this is the Thanksgiving session. So as you are hanging out, eating way too much turkey, watching your favorite sports ball competition, just remember you can tune into codeLive and view this session, as it were. I'm sure we'll be tweeting it up and making everyone happy to know about it. But for right now, we're not taking any messages or communications from the audience because hopefully you're watching this on Thanksgiving Day while we are eating way too much food and watching our favorite sports ball competitions. But thank you for joining us today, or on demand, as it were, whenever you get an opportunity to. And one of the things that we haven't done is actually tested this, or built a trigger, or built some bit of code that will actually exercise this, so that we can see the results. And as a result, we also haven't done any sort of like end-to-end testing. What we have right now is something that publishes those logs as a list, but it doesn't actually do anything with them. So we need to create that trigger. That'll be our next bit of work, and we'll create the trigger to grab those log messages and do something with them. And looks like Chris is done typing up our descriptions of these methods. Shall we move on to writing that trigger?
Yeah, let's do it. I guess one thing we have to decide is, where do we want to put this? So do we want to put it in a custom object? Do we want to put it in a big object?
I don't know. I kind of like the idea of doing a big object. That shows off another platform feature. On the other hand, there's not really like an ad hoc way for you to log in and run a big object query, is there?
You can. The thing about big objects that I'm worried about for the sake of a codeLive is that they behave differently in tests, so that big object writes don't support rollbacks. So you have to clean up your big object writes or mock them in tests. I think that's
Gotcha.
probably just a little bit overkill for how much time we have today.
Yeah, that's
So if I was doing this for real and productizing it, I'd probably do a big object and put the effort into that. Um, but it feels like overkill for what we're trying to do today, so let's keep it simple.
okay.
Custom object, I'd say.
Custom object. All right. I'm going to create a trigger class for us. Create an Apex trigger, and this is going to be a log trigger. We're going to put it in the default trigger. And because this is going to be an after insert, correct? Because it's a platform event?
Yes.
Yeah, it's not. This is the only one available
yeah,
to us is after insert. And this is going to be on, what did we call our... This is the fun part about coming back to this after a couple of weeks. We're trying to remember what we named objects. So I'm going to open up my org here. And come on. Open. We'll do platform events, and we name this platform event log. Okay, so it's on log _ e, like this. And I'm a stickler for not using logic in a trigger handler. So I'm going to say log trigger handler new execute. Let's see. Now I'm going to pull up on our other trigger handlers. I'm going to count trigger here, and we're just going to call.
I was going to say this
run.
is the trigger.
Yeah.
This is the trigger handler pattern you put in the
new
in Apex recipes, right?
Exactly. I just couldn't remember run like that. And we should actually create that class. So create an Apex class. We're going to call this log trigger handler. And we're going to put this in the trigger recipes folder. And this is going to extend trigger handler. And it's extends, Kevin, not extend. Okay. So we can save
now, this is where I show my shame at not fully code reviewing the Apex recipes project like I promised I would. Do you use custom settings or custom metadata to turn off triggers in your handler framework or not?
That's coming. Way to be a hashtag spoiler alert. We are working on implementing and we've actually, one of our very first codeLive episodes, I partnered with Simon Goodyear, and we put in support for metadata turning on and off executions of the triggers, and we're bringing that back in to Apex recipes here in January. So
excellent.
I'm seeing, yes. Okay. So we've got our trigger handler class here. We don't need that one. I'm going to make sure that our log trigger saves. And in here we'll do public status, it's override. And this is going to be after insert. And we're only, the way these fire, we'll only ever have one message, I think, right? It's been a while since I played with platform events.
No, we'd have multiple, up to 2,000.
Up to 2,000.
So the platform,
okay.
Yeah. So interestingly about platform events is because it's going through the event bus, you're not necessarily guaranteed to receive events in your trigger in the same size they were fired in. So like a DML trigger, you do one record, you get one record. The platform events, you think of it as it's a lane of traffic, and whenever there's space, X number of cars flow into the event processing framework. So their triggers run asynchronously as a different user because it's actually a whole different system popping stuff off of the event queue, and it does it in whatever size it feels is necessary. So that could be one event if there's only one waiting, or it could be 2,000 if it thinks it has capacity.
Okay.
And I'm sure Jay Hurst will show up and correct me about some level of misunderstanding there, but in terms of abstractions, that's substantially correct.
But the big part is we actually need to bulkify our trigger. Because
Yes.
we could end up with
If
multiple
we don't
events.
support 2,000 records per time, we need to explicitly throw it's like a retriable exception. I have to look at the docs to remember the exact exception type. But there's a way of doing partial successes in event triggers. You throw a special exception and say which events were processed and which ones weren't, and then it'll retry a smaller chunk. But since we're not doing heavy lifting here, we just need to be bulk safe, and we don't have to go beyond that.
Okay, I'm going to create an object called log event. We should probably do that here in... Yeah. Invalid type run. Did it not pick up the extension?
Should that be static? I think it should be an instance method, right? Public void run. No.
I forgot to create the instance. I forgot the parentheses there. Because if we look at our account trigger handler, we can see that it's just like that. See, now that compiled. All right, so this is what happens if you forget the parentheses. Now, since we've got this log trigger handler here, I'm going to create a log event in our object manager. So let's create a custom object. I'm going to give it an object name of log event. So we'll say log event. Log events. And the record name is an auto number.
Yeah.
Log,
What is it?
like that, and we'll start with 1. We'll allow reports just for grins and giggles. Okay. Oh, that's right. You don't want me to put that in there. Now we'll save it. Now, I'm trying to think of any like fields and relationships that make sense on this, because we'll get creative date, we'll get all that. I think the only thing we can do is actually put the log data in, and the only one that's going to be safe for that is a text area long, which I guess you can't report on, can you?
You can't report on those, and that's probably another reason that, like we just talked about, having separate log channels as something that could be added in the future. That's where that would be really useful. You can sossle on it, but realistically, in a complex enough org where you're really needing to do reports on your logs, you might start to look at things like Wave Analytics or even third-party solutions like Splunk. So that's one of the things that's really nice about the platform events is what we're including is kind of the default built-in lowest common denominator log analytics solution of write them to a custom object, and then you can go browse them and manage them in that lifecycle however you want. But if you're willing to throw a little bit more effort at it, or money, depending on how you want to handle it, you can tap into that same event stream in any other platform, any other solution, and centralize it with the rest of your signals data.
So you can either drop it into your org, or you can drop it into another product.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or a Salesforce product like Einstein Analytics that handles long text areas better. So yeah, there's a ton of options. That's really the whole point of platform events. Well, there's 2 things that they do for us here specifically. One is that they escape the transaction boundary in Apex. So when you fire these log events, even if the Apex request fails and rolls back, you still get the log events exfiltrated from that.
Yep.
And they also don't block callouts. So they do some real... That aspect of them is really critical, because otherwise you have a logging framework that's very invasive and alters your architecture. That isn't what you want. So platform events are really strategic for that aspect. But the other part on the listener side is that you have this tremendous flexibility. Go attach the streaming API, or use an Apex trigger or whatever you want. And so even if you completely turn off this trigger, you could still use the rest of this example meaningfully.
I like it. I like it. Now I'm a little confused because I forget where we started with this, but we've got this log message class, and I'm looking for where we've defined that. And yeah, let's look at that. Let's look for log
It's got a request ID, a quitity, but on the event bus we have the more we have log underscore underscore e.
And
so log message gets flattened down into the platform event in the
the
log message to event method.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's our log message, and we got this to event. So we're going to have the log message, and so on our trigger handler, that's going to be the log data is going to be set to that. And then we also have, I had forgotten, we have the request ID, the quitity, and the severity. And so let's capture those as well.
Yeah, severity, I think I'd make a pick list, but for quitity and request, quitity, you could make a pick list if you wanted. I'd say make it a text field just so you don't have to update it as you make new Apex adoptions.
Yeah,
severity is something you kind of have control over and are invested in. Quitity is something Salesforce adds, and I never like to make it so I have to maintain my org when Salesforce makes changes. I maintain my org when I make changes.
Right. So we just added quitity as a text field. We've got severity. Do you remember what our severity options are that we've created? I'll let you look that up while I type this up.
Info, error, warn, and debug are what we've got.
Use this. We're going to have
info. And then all caps, as any good enum would be. Info, error, warn, and debug. Although the ordering of those bothers me, so I am going to change that to the Apex sources.
All right. And then what was our last one? Quitity, severity, and request ID?
Yep.
Okay. Do you have any idea how long those request IDs are? Like, how long should we make that?
I think they're usually in the range of 64. There's a couple of places that use synthetic request IDs, so I'd say let's make it 255. There's not really a downside to that.
Okay.
Yeah, like some Apex tests will have shorter request IDs because it's basically the Java thread ID with a suffix on it because we're not going through the normal web server that assigns them. Async Apex mocks its request ID because of the same thing. So there's a few different things that make request IDs, and I don't want to make an assurance that they all are aligned.
Right. Okay.
Effectively, it's an arbitrary high entropy string, and you should treat it as exactly that.
Event. And so I'm back in our trigger handler now, and this is going to be pulling those event data from our quitity, or from our events here. So quitity.
Yep.
Underscore C.
Quitity double underscore C.
Request ID. Underscore C. Event. Dot request ID. Underscore C. And then severity.
Yep.
All right, so we're just going to drop those directly into our events list, and then we could insert them. We should probably do it in a try catch.
I guess that raises kind of an existential question of what do you do when your logging framework throws an unhandled exception?
You log it?
And my answer personally has always been to start crying. But
tears are always an option.
Yeah. So I have mixed feelings on the try catch, but you know what? With the way platform event triggers work, if they repeatedly fail, they'll get disabled so that the event stream can process rather than backing up perpetually. So making this fail silently is probably the lesser of the evils. I don't ever like doing that, but it feels like it's a place where a system.debug is acceptable as the catch block. So I would put in the try catch.
All right, so we'll insert events and we'll catch
DML exception. Yeah, it's DML exception.
And we'll do system debug DMLE dot Get message. Ah!
What? It's live share. It can't handle two people typing on the same line?
No, I just, because your little tag showed up, I couldn't actually see what I was typing.
Ah.
Yeah.
So there's a security vulnerability in live share that I can denial of service you.
I mean,
Please don't take that comment seriously.
Sure. I could always thank you and then turn you off. No. Yeah, no, it gets in the way a little bit sometimes. Let's see if we save this. Failed to run. Okay, probably
static methods cannot be override. Are you sure after insert it's supposed to be static?
No. How's that? Variable does not exist. Quiddity. Did I misspell it? Is this one of those times where I misspelled it? Platform event. Log.
Should do that. Did you misspell it in the custom object definition?
No, it's spelled right.
It might be that. Oh, remember you spelled it wrong initially? You might not have refreshed your local S object cache. Is that a local error? So if that's coming from the language server, your cache might be out of date. You did a push?
I did do a push. And now the error is different, so I think I was probably missing an I or something. Okay. Right. I cannot loop over a log event of a S object of log __ E.
Expected S object was log __ E.
Yeah.
So, here we go. So triggers are magic because in the body of the trigger, it knows what type it is. But if you're in an Apex class that isn't the trigger, it doesn't have the type information, and trigger.new is of generic S object. It can't do the magic. I don't know if that magic's in the compiler or the runtime now that I think about it. But one way or another, Apex has language in it to make it so you don't have to know types and triggers. But because we're not actually in the trigger body, that magic can't be applied.
Yep, and I remember why I have to do this. It's log E and incoming records is equal to new list log E. I like to initialize those anyway. And then here it'll be this dot incoming records is equal to list log E, not E. It's like muscle memory. Every time I try to type __ E, I hit __ C.
I completely am guilty of that too.
Okay, so we've got.
Yeah, I feel like there's probably another interesting trick we could do, which is I bet you we could put the cast in the for. But if this is the way other trigger handlers are doing it, then let's stick with convention.
Yeah, this is the way.
But I was going to say, I bet you we could do log or a list log. I bet you if we did the cast right there, it would work, but let's not break convention.
You know what? It would work it would work better if I put the constructor outside of the method we're working on.
That's a whole different type of static factory method.
Yeah, exactly. Which is because this doesn't exist yet. Because, haha, I didn't put it there. I feel like every fifth time I try to push something, it just goes really slowly. It'd be like, slow down. It doesn't like the... Oh, that's because I haven't changed it.
That will definitely do it.
This dot incoming records. Let's see.
And I was looking at your trigger handler framework to make sure this is okay. Because in some frameworks, the handler instance gets reused.
Sorry about that. What was that?
Well, A, apparently you're awesome, so we're gonna have a follow-up conversation about what caused that. And B, in some trigger handlers, the actual handler instance is reused.
Mm-hmm.
And if that was the case, setting incoming records as an instance property would have been worrying. But in this one, it's not because
Yep.
we just showed your trigger. You're creating a new instance on each run, so we're totally fine there. So if I
Yep.
looked distracted, I was double checking this wasn't going to be a problem.
Gotcha. Good check. Okay, so we've got that set there. We've got a trigger. It compiled. It's saved. And so now we should do something to test this, I would think.
I do have one other thing that I think I want to change one last thing real quick.
Okay.
I want to make it so that we do partial saves. So this is the all or none flag
Mm-hmm.
for database.insert, which means if any of the events can be inserted successfully, do it. And that means we will get back a list. Save.
Is it save result or save results? It's save result.
I think it's save result.
Yeah, it's singular.
I'll be deeply embarrassed when you push if I'm wrong.
I mean, I tried to put a constructor inside of another method, so as long as we're talking embarrassing stories from today's session.
Do you like longer names?
Now, somebody's going to ask, because I get questions about keyboards and fonts and ligatures every single week. What kind of keyboard are you using?
I'm not joking. I'm using a keyboard called the Apex Pro. And I only half picked it because of the name.
Okay.
So it's a keyboard from SteelSeries. It's a mechanical keyboard, but it's got some flexibility in terms of like key press like bottoming out that I really like, and it's got this nice little rubber stand that's just very convenient, and quite honestly, it's just a good keyboard that does its job and hasn't caused me any problems, and that's what I look for these days.
Awesome.
So I think that's right. Do you mind pushing for me?
Yeah, you pushed it. You triggered it. It's the magic of live share.
Sweet.
It compiled. All right.
Yes.
Now we should try it?
Yep. Yeah, let's do it.
So I'm just going to create a block of execute anonymous code. And to do that, we're going to go to our log class, and we're going to get an instance of log. So logger equals log.get logger dot add testing 1 2 3, and then oh, that's fun.
I mean, we got the exception path. We might as well make sure it works, right?
Yeah. I always forget that you can construct a DML exception.
I hope that you can. You can construct a bunch of system exceptions, but not all of them, and I always forget the exact list.
We'll find out here in just a second. And then we'll do logger.publish. And I think that's all we need to do, right? Because then it should show up. We haven't added a severity.
Yeah.
Because where is our log message here? We don't have a severity set.
That is correct.
So we should probably set one of those in our little bit of code here. Logger.severity equals what do we log severity dot warn. I think that'll work. Let's
Oh, you know what? We never actually we wired up severity everywhere, but we never put in a place to set your severity properly. So it's currently on the log message, but our logger methods don't actually have it.
Oh, good catch. So if we go
So we
over
missed
here,
that. So we should probably add some overloads.
do the severity at the add stage.
Yep.
That's fair.
And because it's an overload, we want to make the full args version the authoritative one. And that means we need to extract message to log out so we can actually conditionally. Let's do that.
Watching you refactor is a lot of fun. Now, you just did a null check there. Could we use the safe navigation operator to do that?
Probably, but we might add some defaulting in the log message constructor. In fact, do we already have that? So that's the reason I'm not, is in the log message constructor,
which is over here.
We don't currently specify severity, but we probably should. I'm going to say it's info severity by default. How do you feel about that?
I think that makes sense.
So now that's set in the constructor for string message.
And
then for the exception one, that probably deserves to be error, or at least warn.
Yeah, I would say error. I mean, if you got an exception.
Yeah, and those are just default.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so now you can pass in an overload, but those are the defaults for these different methods.
And in our log class, we can say just add the message.
Yep. And I'll clean up exception with an overload if you want to do something more exciting, or you can watch, whichever you prefer.
Now let's do this. I'll modify the method above it.
Thank you. Yeah, we do basically the same thing. So yes, I'm copying and pasting. Shame on me. Except this is exception to log. Optionally set the severity.
Now you're just doing this, but this is... I don't think that's going to work. I think we need to say this.add.
You are correct. This is not a constructor.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got the constructor not defined there. Is it pushing?
It pushed.
Sweet.
Yeah. All right. Now let's run our test over here.
Yep. And so our test should use the default severity levels unless we explicitly override it on one. So we can be like,
Don't be too exciting with your log messages.
Well, I mean, if we're going to log an exception at debug level, then clearly it shouldn't be an exception we care about.
That's true. All right, so now we're executing it. It looks like it ran without any issues. So now we should be able to go back to our org and let's let's go into Apex recipes, and we're gonna have to not Apex recipes. I want service. Let's do service. We didn't add it as a tab.
So,
let me add it as a tab real quick.
Right, we're in Lightning. I don't want to URL hack my way to it.
Yeah. Log event.
In Classic, I would have just looked up the key prefix through anonymous Apex, but it's probably bad practice.
I feel like I should say nerd at this point. Let's see, what should we use
Wait,
as our...
are you telling me you click on things in Salesforce instead of manually constructing URLs?
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay.
I know. I'm sad.
Or I'm weird, one of the two.
I mean, the both can be true. Both can be true. All right. So now we've got our tab set up. Now if I go to service, hopefully we'll see our tab. Come on. Service. Log events. Let's see our log event. All right. We have none that are recently viewed, but that's okay. Now we've got 3 that are here in... Do we have 3? Why do we have 3? Oh, no, we did add 3.
We should have one that's info for testing 1, 2, 3, one
Yep.
that's error for high from exception land, and one that's debug for meh.
Yep. Okay, so I'm going to make this select fields to display here. I'm going to add the rest of our fields. So created date. I don't really care about the log event name, but I do want the quiddity, the record, request ID, and the severity. Save that. All right, so here we can see that our 3, they all came in on the same request ID. And we've got 3 different severities, and I guess I have to put the name in there.
And the same quiddity, because we filed them all through the same execute anonymous, so they all have the same request ID because it was one request that put them in.
Yep.
And they'd all have the execute anonymous quiddity, whatever that actually is in enum form.
I like it. So we've built a simple logging platform. Now here's the real kicker. How can we write a unit test that can then check this? And I think it's going to be simple enough, because if we just write that and then go check for the... Let's do this. Let's do create Apex class. This is going to be log tests. And we'll put this in a custom directory of tests. I'm just going to put it in classes for right now. All right, so we got a log test class here, and I'm just going to at is test private. I don't care about sharing for this.
Nope, you do not.
Test, and we can say static void log 3 events, get 3 records, positive. Okay, and then I'm just going to copy and paste from our execute anonymous here.
Sweet. Then at the end of that, we are going to have to manually coerce the event bus into actually delivering the events. So normally event delivery is asynchronous. It runs in a separate request. It runs as the automated process user, specifically because of the whole Kafka bus and things like that. But in Apex tests, you can't really wait for the Kafka bus to deliver events. That wouldn't really fit the test model. And also, you wouldn't want to fire real platform events from your tests.
Right.
So instead, the platform events team actually added the method to the Apex test class to get a reference to the event bus and be able to force delivery, which is what we do here. So it'll force the triggers to run on the events that we fired at the moment this line of code runs.
So would you put that inside or outside stop test?
I would put that after stop test. So it's basically the platform event equivalent of stop test. Stop test already does too many things. I kind of want to break it up anyway. Like it resets limits. It collects async work. Stop test does too much.
Collects $200. Passes go.
Yeah, I mean, just the code behind stop test is something that the engineers have been asking me to please make their lives easier by simplifying. So should probably do that for everybody, both customers and the Apex engineering team sanity.
Okay, so we've delivered our event. Now we just need to go and get our actual records. So list, and what do we call that?
And because our trigger ran synchronously on line 14, those records should just be in the database. We can just go hit them with a software query.
Oh, what do we call those records, though?
That was a log message.
Log message? No, it's in our trigger. So what are we in our trigger handler?
Log event.
Log event. Okay. Back to our tests. Log event. Event is equal to select ID, and we're going to do request ID C quidity C. What are you doing up there? Oh, you're gonna so we can assert off of it. Nice, I like it.
Yeah, so we can filter. So we can either assert or we can filter in the socket query, whichever one you want.
Well, we don't have to filter in the socket query because we won't have any other records because we're not doing C all test equals true.
Exactly.
Quidity, it's going to be
so
log data. I think log data. Let's go look at our trigger handler. Log message. And let's see if we've got anything else we want in here. The severity. From log event C there. Okay. Interesting.
So you can run Apex tests as part of metadata deployment versus asynchronous versus synchronous. Those are all different quidities because they're different types of Apex execution. And that's fine. We just want to make sure it matches. I mean, we don't care that it matches a specific set value, but it is worth leaving a comment in case somebody tried to optimize this and say it should always be Apex test execution, that how you execute the test can actually matter for that.
So I'm going to do an assertion of the value expected is 3. The actual value is events.size. And we expect this to be, hey, so you're the PM. Can you tell me why we don't allow double quotes?
No, because that decision was made conveniently the same year I graduated high school, and I wasn't responsible for Apex yet.
I didn't know if there was like, the legends of yore said somebody hated or their caps key didn't work or something. They couldn't do double quotes or,
My guess is that it stems back to before Apex was a compiled language when it was runtime interpreted. So back in the old days when Apex had a 3 megabyte heap limit, it was purely runtime interpreted and there was no compilation. That was also why there wasn't any sort of like reflective style. There was no type class. There wasn't JSON deserialized because it didn't really have that capability. It was much more straightforward. And so Apex was basically completely rewritten into a compiled language. And I think the quotes thing is just a legacy quirk of that, but
all right.
I don't know for sure. Good question.
I was just always curious. When I was back learning Apex in API 11, I asked the guy who was teaching my class, what's the thing against double quotes? And his response was, I don't know. So.
Yeah. Well, you started earlier than me. I started in API version 16. So, Kevin, let me ask you.
No,
I don't know. It predates me long enough, and I never dug into it. It was one of those mysteries that you think you'd be curious about when you imagine being the Apex PM, and then the reality of the job hits you, and it just doesn't show up again.
There we go. We're going to check the request ID, the quidity, and Now we've got the problem of which of the 3 messages we have, and how do we assert on knowing which text they have.
Yes. Do you want to add an order by clause? Order by severity? Since all of them have different severities, that would make our assertions a lot easier to predict.
Yeah, that would.
The only thing we might want to do is make sure that the severity options are in the order we expect in the pick list field definition. Because the pick list field definition's ordering of those values will impact the SOCL ordering. That's an interesting thing that not a lot of people know about.
I would never have guessed that. I'm going to format this because that's how I roll.
Yeah. And then I am going to make sure that this says we're in a test, because I am paranoid. Set quiddity. Let's see if I can find the quiddity list. Here we go.
So you're just asserting that this is being run, and the quiddity that we have captured is a test?
Yeah. And you can tell I have the docs open on the other monitor.
No. I like this.
Yeah. Since I can't use assert equals, so I'm going out of my way to not be evil about the message being garbage.
Right. I like it. So now we can say, and just for grins and giggles, I'm going to look at what our severity is set to. And our severity order in this pick list is set to, let me see.
Message log data, that's what it was.
Their info error warn debug. So we should get.
So we want debug. So do you want to start at the top or the bottom? That's the question. Do you want error to be first or debug to be first?
Well, right now this is the order that it's in: info error warn debug.
I think we should fix that.
Okay.
Because saying that error is greater than info and less than debug in SOCL, I know I'm not going to sleep right tonight if I check that in.
All right, now we know how to keep Chris up. So info warn.
So let's check. I would say debug info warn error.
Debug info warn error it is.
Yeah, start at the lowest and work your way up.
Okay. So there we go.
And we would expect this to be, so it'd be our debug. Ooh, to validate the exception format, we probably want to make the log message classes to event. No. So here's a philosophical question for you, and I actually don't have the answer on this one. In log message, in the constructor that takes an exception, we format that message in a particular way.
Yep.
Now, do we pre-compute what we expect the value to be and bake that into our test? Or do we expose that logic and refactor it out into like a static method and make it test visible? There's arguments for both, and I don't know which one I'd pick here.
So I think for the basis of time, we have 8 minutes remaining. I want to say that what we should do is we should finish this unit test without worrying too much about that. Let's just verify that we've got the severities right, and we'll move on.
Perfect.
We'll gloss over the actual content of the message for now.
Mm-hmm. That should be meh. And then the stack trace, I don't want to actually keep on there.
You gonna just split on a new line? Yep.
And grab the first one, yeah. So if I'm right, that should do it.
All right, I'm gonna run
We
this
want to give
test.
it a run and see if that works right?
Yeah, let's save it.
All right, make sure you, yeah.
I'm gonna save log message too. And let's go ahead.
Hey, reformatted stuff.
I know, isn't
You
it
have Prettier
awesome?
running?
I do have Prettier running because it makes things prettier. It's right there in the name, but
column log message. You name the field on the custom object log data instead of log message. We might want to fix that when we publish this for GitHub, but I think that'll be a third session. Or we'll do this asynchronously off camera.
yeah,
One of the two.
off camera. We're gonna make that method does not incorrect signature quiddity.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Because it's a field. Yep. That's on me.
We had a lovely session yesterday on quiddity, and what? Contains string, but it's not a string. Oh, it is a string.
Because they're actual types, so I have to call name. Why can't I shove enum types into the database? Somebody should make an idea for that.
I mean, you say that, but somebody's going to see this and then go make an idea for it.
You know, if you could actually have an Apex enum type that corresponded to a restricted pick list value, that'd be kind of a cool thing. So somebody made an idea for that. I'd be more than happy to go talk to like Vladimir Gerasimov about making that a thing someday.
All right, we're running the test here. This is the clear that out. We'll see what happens. Test failed to run.
No whammies. Some whammies.
We gotta chomp that. The very last one failed. Because assert equals and
actually
go ahead.
I was gonna say I can't see the failure message on my end. So
so the exception failed, and this is what it says. And what I want to suggest that we do is we do contains ignore
case.
Ignore
with no F.
Case.
There we go. Yeah. Perfect. Like you don't want white space diffs to show up here. Like that. Agreed entirely.
But even that may not do it if it's like because this is, see, it's got that space there. And this doesn't at the end. So what is the...
Well, our string literal...
Our string
literal doesn't have the space at the end, so that's fine, because it'll substring on the actual message. Like our literal...
Which is...
So we're saying the message that's in the database should contain that substring in our case, and the substring that we're looking for doesn't have the space at the end. So if the actual message in the database has the space or not, doesn't matter to this assertion now.
All right, I like that. Let's assert equals Boolean from the type system. It's assert.
Yeah, we're just doing a regular assert at this point.
I'm going to go back and clean it up and give it a friendly message off camera.
Yeah, I blocked off some time so that I can actually do some open source work, and helping finish this up is probably worth doing.
Nice.
I've hypothesized that this framework should exist for a while, and
oh, look at that!
So,
look at that! It passed.
It compiled and it passes.
It compiled and it passes.
Well, exactly with 1 minute left. That was down to the wire.
Yeah. So with that, I'll say thanks for tuning in, and we'll get this open sourced and put into the Apex recipes repo as soon as we can. I'm going to put some method, doc blocks, that sort of thing that you expect from Apex recipes in there, and we'll get Chris to contribute some open source time to it. So thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you, Chris, for joining me. This was a lot of fun. We'll have to get you back in here in the new year to do something else fun and slightly on the edge of what is possible of Apex here.
Yeah, if you're not careful, I'm going to send an engineer to actually come do this,
That's
and
fine
that will
too.
be really dangerous.
All right, all right. Make your engineers actually use the language they're creating.
It'll be pretty funny, I guarantee.
All right, all right. Well, thank you very much, and we'll see you again next week on codeLive.